it's Jan, back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. This is gonna be my October wrap-up. Hello, we have all the October vibes, as always in this household. We have our handy dandy Stitch. I almost said Stitch mug, RIP. Handy dandy skull. If you're new here, I do my wrap-ups in the format of the reread, rewrite, burn tag, where I put all the titles that I read in a month in this skull, and I pick them out 3 at a time, and I say whether I'd reread, rewrite, or burn them. You'll see once it gets started if that's any type of confusing. Here we are in my new apartment. I don't know if a vlog's gonna go up before this video or not, so I don't know how many of you have seen this background yet, but here are my new bookshelves. I bought 3 more when I moved here, and I have my all-time favorite shelf behind y'all. It goes all the way around in this little corner, and I'm absolutely obsessed. So this is how filming is gonna look for now. Still figuring out the lighting and everything, but right now it's like 3 p.m. on a Sunday. So we're gonna film my wrap-up really quickly because I'm still in the midst of like putting decor up. I just finished unpacking the last of my clothes, but pretty much this place took me like 3 days to set up. So it's been good, it's been fun. I'm fucking tired. October was a shit show because I got COVID for the 3rd time, and of course we were moving, and then also we were trying to get all the fall activities in there, and it was just a busy month, but I still managed to get 22 books in, so we have a lot to discuss. Some of them are here physically, others were library books via audio or on Kindle Unlimited. I always start with stats, so like I said, number of books, 22. I feel like I didn't say my entire spiel at the beginning of my wrap-ups. Did I forget something? I don't know. Anyway, number of pages. I do keep track of my pages every single day. I have been reading 100 pages a day every single day since I've been consistent with BookTube. I only slip up when I'm like really sick or really fucking depressed. Otherwise, I'm good. With that being said, I read a total of 5,074 pages. Number of BIPOC authors, I read 8. I usually aim for double digits for BIPOC authors in a month, so that is still not up to par of where I want to be, especially since it's 8 out of 22 books. But I did read a lot, especially in the beginning, because I did a BIPOC authors vlog, which will be linked down below. The best book of the month was You Again by Kate Goldbeck. I kind of hate that a romance was my best book of October when, you know, it should be, in my eyes, for me, myself, and my standards for myself, it should be a horror or thriller, something Halloween-y. I guess the cover is pretty autumnal, so just give me a break, okay? I was in a romance mood as soon as October 1st hit, and I was like, really, Jan? Really? How inconsiderate of you. But this was the best one. I started this in September actually, but I really got into it in October. I was into it from the start. I knew from page 1 that it would be a 5-star read. It just took me a while because it is a 400+ page romance. I mean, it's super cute. It gives the Lorelai Gilmore vibes right off the bat with our female main character. What is her name? Ari. And she's also a stand-up comedian, and she moves into this apartment, and then she meets this guy, and they hate each other, and then it follows all these different timelines. It just follows them living their lives. It's kind of like Normal People, where they just live their lives and then life keeps bringing them back together. So it's like a bunch of my favorite things in one, like Gilmore Girls and Normal People, and second chance, third chance romance, multiple timeline, cinnamon roll male character, and the banter is just top tier. Like, there might have been a couple, like very few fringy? Oh my god, please. Cringy lines, but other than that, I really like the steam. I like the progression of the relationship. I liked seeing them as individuals as opposed to just being in a relationship all the time. Like, they were trying to find other relationships, they were trying to, what's it called, pursue different careers and everything. We had time apart, and then of course always came back together, and I absolutely loved it. Highly recommend. It does have semi-long chapters, but it goes by so quickly once you're in it. It's set in New York, and I highly recommend. The worst book. I gave a 1 star to the audiobook for Vampire Diaries: The Awakening. So on top of everything going on in October, I was a co-host for VampAThon, which I am eternally grateful for. Like, I have participated in VampAThon for, I think this was my 3rd year. I actually found Jody through VampAThon, and she is the main host. She created this readathon, and she asked a bunch of us to co-host. Last year, she had me on a bunch of sprints during VampAThon, and I am just so honored that I got to co-host, but it was literally the weekend that I was moving. It was from the 27th to the the 31st. I did have 3 days off to like unpack and stuff, so I was able to join sprints and everything, but I was just like so sad that I couldn't fully participate, like balls to the wall, read a bunch of books for VampAthon. But I did manage to read a few, and Vampire Diaries The Awakening was one of them, unfortunately. This was for the vampire book to movie prompt. I believe it's a show, but I counted it for the prompt, whatever. I was listening to it while I was unpacking my books actually, and also driving back and forth between places to start moving and whatever. I hated it. Not only was the audiobook such bad quality because it's so old, but like it was just like nothing really happened. All of it was about pining for this vampire. Like, okay, granted it was a different era in terms of vampire books, but I just like could not stand it. It's one of those where you do not feel the nostalgia of, well, I didn't have nostalgia attached to this, but like, you know how some, like I'm trying to make my way through Cassandra Clare right now, and I see the old school YA thing, and like I get nostalgia in that sense, but like this was just awful. Awfully written, plot was awful, characters were boring, everything was boring. Really the only part I was like kind of not even intrigued but like interested in was the Halloween party scene, because it just made me think of Terrifier 2, but nothing similar happened like whatsoever. It was just a Halloween party, and that's why my brain made the connection. I don't know. But other than that, I hated the book. I just wanted it to be over, but it was like my only audiobook in Libby as I was moving, you know? So that's that. Moving on. The one nonfiction that I read this month, I try to read one a month, and I've been successful thus far, and it's November, so love when I achieve goals. The one nonfiction is When a Killer Calls by John Douglas and Mark Olshaker, who are my two favorite true crime authors. Mindhunter by this author duo was the true crime that got me into true crime, so I'm trying to make my way through their backlist. I didn't even know this came out last year, but this is their newest. If you don't know who John Douglas is, he was the founder of the BAU, which is the Behavioral Analysis Unit in the FBI criminal investigation field, where he's a serial killer profiler. These people like look at the victimology, investigates the crime scenes and stuff, and sees all these little subtle minute details that people who aren't skilled in this area will not notice and will not make connections as to like qualities and lifestyle and features of said serial killer. When a Killer Calls follows, I already forgot her name. Is it Sherry something? It's a specific case for this one missing girl who got kidnapped in broad daylight from her driveway. I forgot her name. I think it's Sherry something, and the killer's name was Larry something. Larry Jean. Yikes, I don't know. But again, I was moving while listening to this. I was packing my closet up, I remember. So I was highly distracted, but I didn't know about this case before this book. So I like did a little bit of research, clearly not enough because I can't remember shit. But I just love John Douglas's and Mark Olshaker's writing and the way they incorporate a little bit of humor in their true crime as well. And their audiobooks are pretty good. But Mindhunter, if you haven't read Mindhunter yet and you want to get into true crime, love it. It's so intriguing. It's fascinating. The way they like make all these connections to just form a profile for a serial killer they know close to nothing about until they look at this crime, and it's like, it's wild. Literally from like the type of car they drive, if they're married or not, their education, shit like that. Like, trust me when I say it's wild. Oh, I gave When a Killer Calls 4 stars, by the way. Next, I keep track of the books I read on my Kindle because I was struggling earlier in the year with actually utilizing my Kindle and making the most of my subscription to KU. So I read This Thing Between Us. I actually read half of it-ish, a portion of it, on Kindle, and then I switched to the audiobook, but this one's by Gus Moreno. This Thing Between Us I gave 3 stars. I read in my BIPOC authors horror vlog, so like I said, that'll be linked down below. This one was just like weird. It was super short, but it was weird. There were a lot of fever dreamy type of scenes. I just really enjoyed the creepy parts with the dog and this wall that's part of the book. Also, when they were getting like all these weird packages because their Alexa in the book, I think it was called the Sahara or something. No, their Amazon was called the Sahara, but their Alexa was called something else. It was like a different name. Essentially same thing. And they started receiving these packages. So there were certain parts that did keep me reading, and I really like the grief horror in this because our main character lost his wife. Like, it starts with that, and he's navigating life without her, and it's in second person. So there were parts of it that I liked. So 3 stars, but the ending lost me. A lot of parts lost me, and I didn't really care much about the plot for a lot of the book. I also read Carney by Ash Ericmore. This is kind of like a killer carnival type of story, if you couldn't tell from the cover. Joey and I read this for Unmuted and Unhinged Sprints over on Patreon. If you didn't know, I have a Patreon. We're called The Lair. We're vampire themed. Link is always down below. We would love to have you if you're interested in being a fellow vamp, if the bloodlust is calling to you, or whatever the fuck I say. This is one of the perks for all tiers. Unmuted and Unhinged Sprints. We basically just live react to horror/extreme horror novellas that we read in one sitting, and we have ambiance in the background so y'all can read whatever you want with us, or you can buddy read that month's pick with us. It's a fun time. We also have other exclusive videos with Joey. I have my moving content on there at the top tier. I have movie nights, buddy reads every month, monthly readathons. We have a Discord that we talk to every single day on. We say good morning every day, and it makes my day talking to everyone in the lair on a daily basis. Check the link out down below for all the perks listed. But this one, Joey and I both gave it 1 star. It was just not fun. Like, it was really boring. It was slow. There were maybe 2 gory-ish scenes, which were pretty good, but not enough to get that extra star, you know? We did not have a good time reading this. Then lastly, for Kindle, I read Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. This was so good. I gave this 5 stars. This was the last book I read in October. I just loved how there were 2 parts to it, where they were in captivity, and it's really just navigating life and trauma. But the first part, where this girl and her brother-in-law get kidnapped, listen, it's so intense. Let me just fact check the synopsis just in case I spoiled something, so then editing Jan can take whatever out. She really doesn't anticipate waking up in shackles in a madman's basement. To make matters worse, Dean shares the space in his own set of chains. So Jan, take out the part about the second half. Okay, so with this book, I really just enjoyed the 2 parts of the book and how there was like trauma bonding and figuring things out after going through a traumatic experience. And like the first part where our main female character gets captured and locked in this basement with her mortal enemy. Wild. So intense. And then the second half was even better. A lot of trigger warnings though, like a lot on page. Essay. Check trigger warnings before you go into this one. It was hard to read at times, but I really liked how the relationship of certain characters progressed. I really hated this one particular character, but other than that, there were family dynamics and friendship dynamics, and it was just overall a really good read in my opinion. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is Buzzwordathon, which is an annual reading challenge hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala here on BookTube. This month's word was magic, but she said like she would prefer magic being in the title, but she also gave examples for like just witchy books in general or whatever, and she actually held up the book that I'm counting for this. So The Year of the Witching is what I read for Buzzword, and she used this as an example, like I said, which is perfect because this was my Patreon buddy read as well. This is by Alexis Henderson. I really enjoyed House of Hunger. I actually read it with Kayla for Literally Dead Book Club. I'll try to remember to link that live show down below because that was my first time on Literally Dead Book Club last year. But this one I gave 3 stars. It's set in like Puritan times in the land of Bethel. What year is this? I don't even know, but I didn't realize this was YA until way after I finished it. Yeah, it showed, especially by the end. Things got repetitive. The ending was dumb, in my opinion. It started off really strong though. It stays atmospheric all throughout the book with that historical type of witchy vibe, but there were times in here that just dragged a lot. There were a couple creepy scenes, but not really. So I gave this a 3, like a low 3. And there was supposed to be a sequel, I believe, but she, I think, announced in an interview or whatever that she's not planning on writing the sequel. So there's that. I did not read a book over 500 pages. Classic. I don't know. Is this considered a classic? We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I don't know if it's like a more of a modern classic. I'm sure that's what it's classified as, but I'm fucking counting it as a classic, okay? Shirley Jackson. I gave this 2 stars, I think. Yeah, I gave it 2 stars. I listened to the audio despite owning it. I really didn't even want to read the physical because I bought this from Half Price Books and it has some writing in the margins, and I don't like buying annotated books. I like annotating my books and then people apparently buy mine, so this is gonna go on my Pango, but just know if you're planning planning on buying it. It's not my annotations, or maybe it's going straight to Half Price Books, who knows. But I just didn't care for the audiobook. I didn't care for the story. I was just bored the whole time. It's about this like weird family. It just didn't do it for me. The Haunting of Hill House didn't do it for me either, so I'm not really that surprised, but I really like this edition. I was so sad when I couldn't find this at Half Price Books, and then when I did, I was ecstatic to have it finally, but alas, it's leaving my shelves once again. Okay, now that that is out of the way, we're gonna finally start the actual reread, rewrite, burn part of this wrap up. So we've got Lore Olympus Volume 5 by Rachel Smythe. Is it Smythe? Smith? Monstrilio by, I can't remember the author's name. I read it on audio. And then Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, which I also read via audio. So I would reread this because I own it, and I would perpetually reread Lore Olympus. These are the only graphic novels that I own. Otherwise, I get graphic novels from the library, but I will absolutely reread this despite me giving it a 3. This is probably my lowest rated one of the series by far. I feel like nothing really happened besides this one thing. It was intense for like 2 pages, and then I was like, oh. It's still a fun read. I feel like this one just didn't have as much fun humor as the other books, so it just felt different. But there is one more coming out, and I'm sad that the series is ending, but I do own all of them so far, so I will definitely be rereading this at some point. But this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and I do prefer this cover to the original. But yeah, I mean, it's the 5th in the series, so I'm not gonna go into it, but I would reread this. I would rewrite Monstrilio. Really, I just didn't like the different perspectives. I know that's an unpopular opinion. I went to the live show for Literally Dead Book Club, and everyone in the chat was saying that they loved the multi-POV and that there were reasons for them, and I understand the reasons, but I preferred the first half over the second half. It started off really strong. It was unhinged for a very long time. Again, another one with grief horror about this woman's son dying, and then weird shit happens. Just know it's grief horror, but in like a very weird, unhinged way. But also I listened to it via audio, so I feel like there is a chance that if I read it physically, it would have been higher than a 3-star. But that's that. It was a decent book. Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, I would burn. I like the romance itself and the romantic scenes, but the premise of it being a wedding planner and a florist, I was just so bored whenever she was actually doing her job, or when he was doing his job. Like, I stayed for the romance, the steamy scenes, the cute conversations, like that type of shit, because it was a second chance romance. I'm glad it wasn't YA though, like I thought it was, because I feel like that'd be even more cringy. But yeah, I would just burn that. I listened to it on audio. I'm so glad I didn't purchase it for my shelves. I gave Forget Me Not 3 stars as well. Next, so we have You Again by Kate Coldbeck. When a Killer Calls by John Douglas. What's nice about a long recap is the fact that I've already talked about most of them, like all 3 of these. Then we also have Year of the Witching. Obviously, I would reread this. Already talked about her. I'm not gonna go into it again. I would burn The Year of the Witching. Oh, no pun intended, because witches burning. Yeah, okay. Yeah, already talked about her. And then I would rewrite When a Killer Calls. I don't know how I would rewrite it. I didn't think this through. Maybe if it followed more than one serial killer. Like, I like their books about multiple ones. This one just followed that one case. And I think I've said this before too about their books, but yeah, I do like the ones that cover a bunch of cases as opposed to just one. I feel like that's how I feel about Junji Ito collections too. Anyway, this was a contender for my favorite book of the month, but Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Obviously burn We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I was gonna say, so I have a legitimate reason why I would rewrite this, because it has my most hated trope in it, but I would just say I'll reread this. This was 5 stars for me. The ending was great. The commentary on hustle culture and corporate America and toxic work environments, just toxic people in general, like family and relationships that you get yourself into because you're desperate for love. If you liked acts of desperation, you will love this as well, in my opinion. If you've been in a toxic work environment before, you'll be able to relate to this in one way or another. This in particular is set in Silicon Valley. This girl moves over there and gets her what she thought was going to be her dream job, but alas, people suck. It just talks about her struggles and the way she's treated and the way she was forced to treat other people in this company. It sounds boring, but like it really digs deep, and she's also going through shit in her personal life. And yeah, like I said, she gets into situations just because she's desperate for love and just feels lonely and everything. And it's very much that sad girl lit fic, and the ending really solidified that 5th star for me. So would reread this. I would rewrite None of This Is True to just make it shorter. I feel like this was way too long for what it was, and I don't understand why people are calling it like the thriller of the year. People were just obsessed with this when it came out, and I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it once you were in it. It's a very quick read. There were unreliable characters in here. There were definitely some shady, sketchy ones, but I don't know. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is my new all-time favorite thriller. So I would just make it shorter for sure. I feel like there were some parts that kind of dragged on, and I didn't really like any of the characters. It was just a thriller just to get through, you know, because it was hyped. It's Lisa Jewell. I love some of her books, hate some of her books, and I wanted to see where I stood with this one. But yeah, that was my thing. It was a little bit too long. Okay, next 3, we've got You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Barron, Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison, Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I would burn You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. I gave this 3 stars. The twist is dumb. I hated the twist. I hated the ending. There was an ending before the epilogue. I wish it would have just cut off there, because that was a good, abrupt, solid ending, I feel like. Well, I wouldn't say solid. It was just, yeah, I guess. But it would have been more unsettling than with the epilogue. I just wish it rolled with what seems obvious versus trying to go above and beyond and do this like, weird supernatural thing that I was not a fan of. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't remember when I read this. Did I read this for Patreon or YouTube? I don't know. Either way, it's in one of my vlogs of October. I mean, I'm glad it was short, but I was highly disappointed because this was so hyped. I love the cover. It's like campy. She basically plays the final girl in this like simulation for being chased by a serial killer. She's the one who's like, I am the final girl. You have survived Camp Mirror Lake or whatever. It's just a summer job thing that she does. It was funny. Like in the first half, I was there for the humor and the characters and everything. But then like that twist comes around and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I hate this. So I gave it a 3. Would burn that. Still Beating and Black Sheep. Okay, I gave both of them 5 stars, but I think I would reread Still Beating because it made me feel so many things. It made me so emotional. It made me laugh. It made me freaking almost cry. It made me swoon. I loved it. It was cute. It was cute at moments, but overall it was very intense emotionally and in plot, whatever. Black Sheep, I also gave 5 stars. This was my favorite book of, wait, was this my favorite book of the month? No, You Again was my, I'm so stupid. This was my full moon book club pick. I will link my discussion with Erin down below because that live show was one of the best I've ever had for my book club. I feel like it was very productive and very insightful, and we got deep at times, okay? It was a great discussion. So I'll leave that down below since I don't do the spoiler-filled vlogs for YouTube anymore. I do them for Patreon. I would rewrite this to make it a little bit longer. I know, that's rare for me to say. Make it a little bit longer, flesh out a few different things that we talked about in the live show, and definitely make some of the gory scenes more intense. I feel like the horror could have definitely been kicked up a notch, but this explores themes of religion and family mainly. The twist in this is so good, and the way Rachel Harrison just discusses nuances when it comes to religion and being accepted by your family, having your own choices and stuff, really fucking good. Highly recommend. It's such a quick read. I read it in 2 days, which hasn't happened in a while for me around here. Yes, discussion will be linked down below. Next 3. The Fox Maidens by Robin Ha. That was a graphic novel that my coworker let me borrow because she had an arc for it. It comes out in February. Carney by Ash Ericmore, and This Thing Between Us. Oh god, this is not a good batch. Okay, I gave this one 1 star, so I would burn this. Okay, I guess I would reread The Fox Maidens, but I actually wouldn't because I gave The Fox Maidens, I gave it 3 stars. It's a graphic novel. I rarely ever reread graphic novels unless it's Lore Olympus or one of my all-time faves, and this one was like super wordy. I mean, it was cool. There was this one intense thing about the plot that's unique. It follows this warrior girl, nine-tailed fox situation, and it has discussions about being female in a male-centric, I guess, profession or anything, because she's like training to be this warrior or whatever. I read it in black and white, so maybe in color I would enjoy it more, so that's like the only reason I said I would reread it, like when it's actually out and in full color. So there's that. This Thing Between Us I would rewrite. I don't even know how I would do it. like, I guess hold my hand more, because I was too dumb for this book. I feel like I needed more explanation. I couldn't do ambiguity in this book. I was too confused. Next three, we've got Vampire Diaries, The Awakening, Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin, and Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. Okay, so what do we read? Bring Me Your Midnight. I gave this one 4 stars. At first, it took me a long time to get into this. I put it down for a while, but I knew I wanted to pick it back up because Rachel Griffin, I love all her books. This is my least favorite, probably just due to the setting, and it does have some juvenile moments in there. But overall, I really like the progression of the fantasy elements and the deals that these characters had to make and decisions they had to make, the romance that ensued. It's kind of cringy sometimes, but overall I thought it was cute. Rachel Griffin is just queen of like atmosphere and witchiness. Basically, this girl is from the Witchery, which is one of the islands, and then there's the mainland, and there are other secrets in this area. She's arranged to marry the governor, the governor's son of the mainland, so so the mainland and the Witchery can form an alliance, but then of course there's this love triangle thing going on, and she meets this other guy, and yeah. This is really good. This is a really pretty fucking book. We know this about Rachel Griffin's books. Gorgeous. So yeah, I would definitely reread this, but I would definitely reread her other books before I do this one again. And then we had Bad Cree, Vampire Diaries. Vampire Diaries, burn, obviously. Worst book of the month. Bad Cree, I would rewrite in terms of less dreamscapes. That's what I didn't like about this book. I listened to it via audio, and again, it had a strong start. It felt like the movie The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. It had a bunch of crows and stuff, and birds in like masses just creep me out. So that was really creepy, but then yeah, it was just like dreamscape after dreamscape, and I don't like books like that, but still gave this one 3 stars. The audiobook was good, but once I got used to the narrator, it was easy to zone out, so I don't know, but it was decent. That's another one that I probably would have enjoyed more if I read it physically, or at least followed along with the audiobook. All right, we have Body and Soul Food by Abby Collette, I believe is the author's name. There Is No Devil by Sophie Lark, because I told y'all I was in a romance mood. And The Cat Who Saved Books. I forgot that author's name, I'm so sorry. Or the translator, I forgot. I would reread There Is No Devil. This is the sequel to There Are No Saints. I gave this one 4 stars. I gave There Are No Saints 5 stars. Like I said in my vlog, it might have been a Patreon vlog, but I did say that if this were an individual book and not a sequel, it might have been a 5-star, but you know, you can't help but compare to the first one, and it just didn't live up to the same like intensity and swoon worthiness, I guess, of the first one. This one did include a lot of like background info on our 2 main characters, Mara and Cole. It had like full chapters on just their past and their traumas and the abuse in their families and things like that. So again, check trigger warnings. It's technically considered a dark romance, I believe, and it is on KU, but the physical edition has illustrations. It is a super quick read, and I would reread this duology at some point in life because it involves a serial killer at some point. If you like the Mindfuck series, definitely pick up this duology. Body and Soul Food, I would probably burn. I listened to that via audio. That's a cozy mystery. I was just listening to it on my drives to and from work. It was good at first, and I was interested in how the twins found each other because they were separated at birth, and we follow them after they've already found each other, and they started a business that's half cafe, half bookshop. I thought that was really cute. And then when we found out about their friend getting murdered, that was intriguing, but then the investigation itself was just boring to me. I don't even remember the ending or the twist or who the killer was. I just remember every girl in this book was like obsessed with the guy who died, and I was just like, I'm confused. But probably burn that. I gave that one 2 stars. I thought I at least gave it a 3, but damn. Cat Who Saved Books, I would rewrite. I don't know how I would rewrite it. I feel like just the writing style felt kind of Alice in Wonderland-y, which I wasn't a fan of book-wise. I like the vibes of Alice in Wonderland and the characters and the quirkiness of it and everything, but like reading the classic book, wasn't a fan of it. So Cat Who Saved Books had that type of writing style. I don't really know how to explain it, but I mean, it is translated work, so I don't know if things just got lost in translation, but I mean, it's a bookish book with this talking cat It has commentary on books dying out, and also music was mentioned. There were some good discussions at some parts, but again, I listened to it while I was moving, so I got distracted a lot. But yeah, I guess the writing style is the rewrite, because I gave this 3 stars. So I had a good time listening to it. It was cozy for sure. It's there. I wouldn't purchase a physical copy of it. I wouldn't reread it. Yeah, okay. Our last one is Crumbs. It's a graphic novel. It's a witchy graphic novel that I read from the library. I gave this 4 stars. It was super cute. It was just really long, so I think I would rewrite it and just make it shorter. I feel like it didn't need to be as dragged out as it was, but it is really cute. If you liked mooncakes or even honestly pumpkin heads, I would check out Crumbs. Also Donuts and Doom. Yeah, all similar. Maybe not pumpkin heads that much, but still that cute, cozy graphic novel. I recommend Crumbs. Okay, if you made it to the end of this video, let's put fall leaf emojis in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope y'all had a great day. Stay safe and stay scary always, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye.